Hey guys. So I wanted to come up here and I wanted to talk about some boxing. Now, I've never really been a big boxing fan. Of course, I have, seen the fights that everybody's seen. Of course, I grew up in the Tyson era where he was knocking niggas out in one round. And then of course, I've seen people like Tank Davis and people like that, that are like pay-per-view stars. Like, and when they do have a fight, it's such a big spectacle. But here recently, my son, my 19-year-old son, he loves boxing, and here recently he's really been kind of getting me into it. And so with that said, I definitely have a newfound hobby of mine. I think boxing is very interesting. And I know we've all seen that fight with Terence Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. Nobody listens, though. Nobody listens. Everything that Bomac said during the press conferences, everything that Terrence said during the press conferences actually happened. Okay. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was one statement that Bomac made during the press conference. I can't remember if it was the second one or the third one, but he did say that the one thing that people are not going to understand, the one thing that people are not going to understand is how easy he is going to make it look. And that's exactly what happened. I think that because he made it look so easy, it was like in our minds, in your mind, it was like something had to be wrong with Errol Spence. Something had to be wrong. It just had to be wrong. And that's not true. That's not true at all. What you can do with another fighter, you just can't do with someone else, especially with someone as skilled and trained as Bud. I can tell you right now, I think he is probably the best boxer in our era, to be honest with you. And it frustrates me, and it kind of makes me sad when I see people attacking him so bad for being so good. I think that sometimes people don't understand something that they feel like can't be possible. And for them, they feel like it just cannot be possible that he can absolutely be this good. And when I see the hate sometimes, it's like, I think people just don't understand it. I think that people cannot. I think people refuse to wrap their minds around the fact that he's just that good. And I say this to say that, after the fight, I went back and I looked at a lot of Spence's fights. I looked at a lot of Bud's fights. And I can tell you right now, Spence, for the most part, he performed almost as if he would in any other his fights. He had no foot movement. And I don't know why I'm the only one that noticed this. So, the actual open workout that they do before the fight starts. So I looked at Spence's open workout, and I looked at Terrence's open workout. And I can tell you now, they were two different workouts. Bud's workout seemed more severe, more trained than what Errol did during his training. And the reason why I'm trying to connect that the way Spence performed was his performance, is because when you look at his previous fights, he's always kind of been very flat-footed. He never really has a lot of foot movement whatsoever. He never has a lot of head movement, and the only thing that he's ever had is that jab. And see, he might have been able to fight Sean Porter and Kell Brooks and other people who Bud have fought. But like I said, what you can do with one fighter, you can't do with another fighter. You know what I mean? That's just what it is. I think people need to get over it. I think people need to get over it. And the one thing that really makes you like a hater at this point right now is just feeling like, hey, somebody has to beat him. Somebody has to beat Bud. Please understand this, okay? Like, and I feel this way from the bottom of my heart. That man is not scared of no damn boots. That man is not scared of no damn boots. Because if you think that the performance that Boots can go into the ring and do with these low fighters that nobody's ever heard of, if you think that he can go in that ring and do the same thing to those fighters that he can do with Bud, you are sadly mistaken. And you might be a little blind, to be honest with you. But I hate to dead your dreams, but that's a matchup that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because it would never make sense. Bud would have everything in the world to lose and nothing to gain. He would have nothing to gain if he was to fight Jerron Ennis. He just would not. And then, of course, Jerron, he wouldn't have technically nothing to lose, and he would have everything to gain. And it's kind of not fair, too, because it's almost like he wants to jump out into left field and fight Bud. Like, why? Because the fans want it? Because it doesn't make sense? You know, I think the best matchup right now for Bud is definitely going to be Canelo. And I'm sorry, I can put my business in right now. Like, I definitely think that I have no doubt in my mind that Bud can beat Canelo. He is definitely one of the best fighters in our era. The patience that he showed in that Spence fight, I mean, it was just immaculate. And I know y'all might think that I'm crazy when I tell you this. My son can definitely agree with me. I've watched that fight for a lot. I've watched that fight a lot. It's very entertaining to watch. And because that performance was so amazing, it's kind of sad now because, like, when you see other fights, like what do we see? We saw Ryan Davis. I can't think who he fought that one time, but we saw Ryan Davis, and then we saw the Shakur Stevenson's fight. And I feel so bad for Shakur because even though that wasn't one of his best fights, he's definitely had better performances than that. But the reason why I felt bad for him is because all that happened after Bud for an era, right? And so people are like looking at this fight and saying to themselves, like, wow, I mean, that was like a performance. Like, people pay to see that type of fighting. I'm sorry, it was immaculate, okay? People pay to see that type of fighting. And so Shakur has his fight after Bud does his amazing performance. And I think that just having Bud connected to him, I think we just all kind of like assumed that he would fight just like Bud. You know what I mean? That he would do the same moves as Bud. He would look just like Bud, destroying somebody. And we just didn't get that. You know, now what we do know is that it was a less than stellar performance. He's definitely done better than that, but I just think the chips were so high for him because he now has that connection with Bud. And when you think about it, nothing changed. Nothing changed. Bud didn't do anything different with Shakur that he's ever done. He's always walked out with him. He's always just kind of been by his side, supporting him doing these fights. And he had been doing that. So it wasn't like nothing had significantly changed as to why Bud was there that day and why he walked out with him. Again, he had been doing that. But the only thing that was different at this point was the fact that Bud had just completely shown the world why he is the greatest fighter in the world. In the world. And so I just think that with that connection, I think that just people were looking for that type of boxing. And even other fights that have happened in between that, Canelo and Jermell Charlo, you know, that was a decent matchup. But I'm sorry, I don't think nobody's fucking with Bud. I don't think nobody's fucking with Bud. I think this is his time. I'm very, very happy for him. That man has a family. That man has a family. And could you imagine knowing that you had that type of talent and completely being slept on? Knowing that you had the type of talent where you could go out there and ask for those Floyd Mayweather checks. because I truly believe that he's worth every dollar. And I can tell you right now that the next fight that he's going to have, he's going to make a lot of money. And I hope he makes a lot of money, because he is, what, 35, 36 years old. He doesn't have long. And it sucks because this is who he was. Every person that they have put in front of him when he jumped up to 147, he proved them wrong. And it's sad, like, when you go back and you look at the press conference and the things that Spence was saying, like, oh, you haven't fought anybody, this and this and this. And when you see it, it's like, this is really what his career had been basically made of. Like, no one giving him credit. Even to every time that he knocked one out, it was more excuses than anything. Hey, he fought Benavidez with one leg. Sean Porter's dad had already said that he didn't do what he was supposed to do when he fought Bud. And honestly, I think that he could have stopped that fight probably. Oh, wow. I think that he could have stopped that fight probably in that fourth round if he wanted to. But I think that he wanted to just send a message. I think he wanted to send a message that, like, stop fucking with me. Stop playing with me. Like, this is how I'm going to come. When you think that I'm this nigga who have not been fighting anybody, I'm going to show y'all all wrong. And I can guarantee right now, if there ever is a rematch between him and Spence, which I don't think there will be, I think he would definitely get him out of there earlier than that. You know, I think that he took his time the first time, because let's say if he had got him out the third or fourth round, then it would have been said, well, you know, Spence should fight him again because he just had like a lucky move, or he had he was just having a really, really good night. But to draw it out the way that he did, it was, one thing was very, very obvious in looking at that fight, and that was that he's amazing. He's amazing. And I think the world just needs to give that man his chips. It's been long overdue. It's been long overdue. I have definitely heard of Omaha before. I knew that Gabrielle Union was from Nebraska, and I had actually watched a documentary like years ago where it talked about a lot of gang activity and things like that in Nebraska. So I did know that there was some type of like hood shit going on there. But baby, when I tell you that Bud put Omaha on the map, when I tell you Bud put Omaha on the map, baby, he put Omaha on the map. And I wish him nothing but the best. I wish him nothing but the best for him and his family. I really didn't like the reports of how they just keep bringing up his mom's situation, because I don't care what you think you may know or what you heard may have happened. What I see now is a mother that really, really loves her son. That's all I have to say today. I will probably come back and do some commentary after the Canelo and Jamal Charlo fight. I got a lot to talk about with that, but for now, I just wanted to just hop on here and give Bud his flowers, because he deserves it. He deserves it. He's a hell of a fighter. And personally, me, I just couldn't imagine being that great and knowing you were that great and continuously being slept on and not giving the fights that you wanted. So just stop talking shit. It's not going to change anything. If anything, you really fuel him to be that monster and that beast that he is. And no to the Boots fight. No, it makes absolutely no sense. No, you gotta pay your dues just like Bud did. That's like Bud years ago, jumping up and trying to fight for Floyd or somebody, or jumping up like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And no, because you wouldn't even be able to generate the type of money that Bud is looking for. And he's looking for that type of check because he's worth that type of check. So to my boxing fans, bye. I hope you have a great day, and I'll try to make another video soon. Bye.